Welcome. It's Pat Callahan joining you here on a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football. We have an action-packed show for you this evening. Dick Vermeil is going to be joining us, who coached for both teams. Sal Paolantonio coming up. We got Sean Green. We got Gary Myers. We're going to look at this game from every way possible and look at the history of the two teams and how this game might turn out. We're going to do that right now on the Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
All right. Hello, everybody. Pat Callahan joining you here for the Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football. Thanks very much for joining me. You can follow me on Twitter at TWIPFPat. Follow the network at JAKIB Sports. They've been some terrific Super Bowl content all week long on the network. So give them a follow as we rumble towards Sunday at 6:30 and finally getting to play this football game. And by all accounts, it should be a good one. The line has not moved in about 4 days. Eagles at 1.5 over Kansas City. Of course, the usual idiot prop bets that people will drop an unbelievable amount of money on. $3 billion has been bet on Super Bowls in the state of Nevada alone since 1991 when they began tracking it. Just $3 billion. So it's funny, every time you hear how bad everybody's doing in the country, then you think about all this money being bet. Well, where the hell's that money coming from? But anyway, it's by all accounts, it should be a good game. The teams match up very well. We'll do a tail of the tape later on, discussing how the two teams do measure up. It is the second trip in 5 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles 1-2 in Super Bowls for the Chiefs. It's their third trip in 4 years to the big game. So you can't give enough kudos to Andy Reid for the job he has done in Kansas City. It's unbelievable. Of course, when you have a certain number 15 as your quarterback, that tends to help things a little bit. And that is, he is the great equalizer for any game that the Chiefs are in. So I mentioned to you, we have an action-packed show this evening. Sal Paolantonio is going to be joining me at the bottom of this hour. We got Sean Green, who'll be live on Radio Row. Gary Myers later on. But I'd like to bring this gentleman on right now, who is a Hall of Fame inductee 2022, a 15-year head coach in the National Football League with Philadelphia, Super Bowl winner with the St. Louis Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's Coach Dick Vermeil. Coach, welcome to This Week in Pro Football.
Nice to see you, Pat. How are you?
All right. Thank you very much for joining me. I will not waste your time. We're going to get right into some
time. I appreciate that. Talking football, believe me.
Yes, we'll talk some football right now because I wanted to start with this. 2 weeks, Coach, between the championship games and the Super Bowl. Do you see that? I mean, you went through that as a coach. Is that a plus for both the coach and the team, or is it actually, could it be a little bit of a minus?
No, it's no minuses. There are no minuses, because I'm maybe the only coach that ever coached Super Bowls that experienced both situations.
Right.
When we were with the Eagles, we had 2 weeks, which gave me more time to screw them up. But when St. Louis, we didn't have a bye. We played Tampa Bay in the championship game on a Sunday in St. Louis. 3 o'clock the next day, we were on a plane flying to Atlanta. And that was a real disadvantage. The reason, Pat, all these kids are human beings. They all have families and wives and grandparents and all that kind of stuff. And no one can buy a ticket to a game, airline ticket, make hotel reservations or anything until they know you're going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So all of a sudden, we have the second time I go, we have 7 days to condense all that kind of organization, and it's a distraction. Now, fortunately, we won the football game because we took 5 Hall of Famers along with us. Okay, that makes a difference to that kind of
That always helps, yeah.
Yeah, well, you bet. Especially Isaac Bruce and Kurt Warner, Orlando Pace, Marshall Falk, Torrey
and
Holt.
I certainly hope Torrey Holt too. I certainly hope so.
He didn't make it this year, but he will make it.
Yeah.
But anyway, when we went to St. Louis, we didn't have that advantage from St. Louis, and it really cost for me. I wanted to bring family from California.
Yeah,
this kind of and it was difficult.
Right.
And your own kids, So I think that the week bye. It should always be a mandatory. I don't know if it's ever organized to the point in the future that we will not have that week bye.
Right.
It's not fair to everybody that really has earned the right to go to the game, Pat.
Right. Okay. All right, Coach. Now you have a unique perspective here in that you coached in both organizations. First, obviously, with Philadelphia, where you turned what was, let's face it, the Eagles were a moribund franchise before you got there. And because I lived it. I've been living in Philadelphia boy forever. And then you went to Kansas City, and they were a perennial playoff team when you were there. Can you compare the two organizations? Do you think there's a lot of similarities in them? Are there any stark differences between how the two organizations conduct their business?
Well, first off, you have to realize I did not work for Jeffrey Lurie. I worked for Leonard Rose. And I have great respect for the job he has done, and admiration and respect for the job Howie Roseman's done. It's unbelievable, the job he's done. You talk about providing a team with talent to coach. This guy's done a wonderful job.
All right.
You know, in Kansas City, I worked for the Hunt family.
Right.
And Lamar and I became very close.
Okay.
And he appreciated my approach, and I appreciated his contribution and the kind of man that he was. And we became good friends.
Right.
I didn't have that advantage with Jeffrey because, you know, I didn't excuse me one second.
That's all right. Good. I thought, thank God it's yours. I thought it was mine.
Yeah. But I didn't have the opportunity to work for Jeffrey, but I know you talk about it now. Okay, this is the third time they've been to the Super Bowl since he's an owner.
I know.
That's a great tribute to what he has done. And I don't know how many owners can say that other than in New England. You know.
Yeah.
Dallas, how many years has it been since Dallas has been there? Okay.
I know. And yet it's funny, isn't it? Something how that they end up, but you can't get them off national TV. It's something how certain franchises they just perpetuate, go on and on. Dallas, they haven't been there since I think the mid '90s.
And you know, the other thing, Pat, everything is so much more sophisticated and advanced today in contrast to 1980. Okay. It's just, you know, as you know, the comparison I use, Pat, is in 1980, if you drove a Cadillac, you drove a beautiful American car. Well, that car in 2023 is much more sophisticated. Football is equivalent to that.
Right.
The game we played in 1980, and, you know, we had a dirty dozen offensive plays and a number of passes and everything. But today, the volume of offense and the defense and everything they play within the single game is just so much more. Right. Therefore, it's a better spectator sport, actually, than it used to be.
Yeah. Now, that's a great segue from my next question, which is about Coach Reid, because Coach Reid really probably Coach Vermeil has seen both sides of what you just described. He's been a head coach for 24 years in the National Football League, and he's been phenomenally successful. And he's about to become, probably in September of 23, he'll become the winningest coach in Chiefs history. They've been around since 1960. Right. So my question is, how does he do it? How does he not only perpetuate being a winner as a coach, but how does he sustain that kind of hard work?
Well, first off, Pat, he has great emotional stamina and control. You know, he's been through some adversity in his life. He's also lost some big games. Yeah. You know, but he's always been able to keep it in proper perspective and keep moving forward. And when you've coached 24 years, what you've done offensively, defensively, and special teams, you've had an opportunity to value what you thought was really good, right? And you found out isn't as good, and you found out some things that were really good that just keep getting better, and you keep building an offense over that many years of experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, who could surprise Andy Reid after 24 years?
That's right.
You know, the wisdom and the experience that he has, there's nobody like him in the league right now.
No. Not many coaches are surprising him. You're right about that.
So I think that the added experience that he's had, added to his intelligence and native ability to lead and coach within his own style, has made him a very, very unique football coach.
Plus, it appears from the outside that his players are intensely loyal to him.
Oh, no question. They appreciate it because, you know, first off, he has integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't BS the troops.
Yeah.
You know, if you want an honest answer, just ask Andy Reid. Now, you may not like the answer.
Well, Well, I'll tell you, and of course, you mentioned Howie Roseman, Reed, and the brain trust at Kansas City. They deserve credit because they jumped up a number of spots to draft Patty Mahomes, and that was about as good a trade as you'll ever see in the NFL when they moved up to get in.
Yeah, and you have to again congratulate Clark Hunt for allowing Andy Reid to build his own personnel department.
Yeah.
Andy hired the general manager, not the ownership.
That's right. Isn't that? Yeah.
Andy hired him.
Yeah,
and he put together his own personal staff. And Andy really stays out of most personnel now, other than final decisions.
Yeah.
It's just too much today.
Yeah. But you need a lot of coin as a general manager to hire your own coach. And he's got it. He's got it.
So not many owners allow that anymore.
No, that's right. That's
More
right.
really should, but they don't. Fortunately for Nick Sirianni, he's got Howie.
Yeah.
Nobody's done a better job in the last couple of years than Howie's done.
All right, Coach, let's turn our attention, if we could, just to this game here. I just wanted to ask you, I've mapped out, I guess everybody really has, and I wanted to ask you, what must Philadelphia do to win this game? Are there one or two things in your mind that the Eagles must do to win this game Sunday?
Well, be what they are and be what they were, and don't try to reinvent the wheel. They beat people because of Jalen Hurts. His combination of both run and pass, which controls defensive coverages and schemes. Can't play a lot of man. You better not blitz, and all these different kinds of things against him. And I think if they stay true to their personality, they're going to be very difficult to beat. And granted, Holmes is going to make some plays anyway.
Right.
So the team that is fortunate enough to play the most disciplined football they can play by not committing a foul when you scored a touchdown, it's called back,
right?
Or you sack the quarterback and you're going to get the ball, make them punt, and you defensive holding, and you give them a first down, they go down and score and beat you. You can't do that in this country.
Exactly, right.
So it's critical that, and someone said that to me today. It's unlike baseball in the NBA. It's not the series of best of 7. It's the best of 1.
Yes.
The best team may not win the game. If you don't play well today, you don't win it. That's all there's.
Yeah, like during media day, a genius scribe asked Coach Sirianni, "Is this a must-win game?" I mean, you must have faced questions like that. You just want to, you just want to stand up and I guess walk out of there. I guess, right?
Yeah. The only negative that can come out of Nick Sirianni's career so far, and winning a Super Bowl, is the standard is set so high that in Philadelphia they will never accept anything less.
Yeah.
That's
they
it just you know how they are. I told the young coach of St. Louis Rams a few years ago, you won too soon. You won too soon. It's going to make it really tough because everyone, of course, Los Angeles isn't as intense as Philadelphia or as passionately involved with their team.
No.
But everyone holds you to that standard. It is tough to meet that standard every year.
Yeah, it is, and especially in Philadelphia. It's a tough town, and they are
especially
passionate. As if I need to tell you how passionate Philadelphia fans are about the Eagles. It's certainly not. But you mentioned about they have to be true to what they were. The Eagles were 5th in the league in rushing. Kansas City was 20th. Don't you? My theory is that the better the Eagles stay true to that and run the ball, the more number 15 stands on the sidelines.
No question. But what we don't in all the stats, I have in front of me, I'll show it to you right here. Okay. It's dated week 8 of the season.
Right.
Of my Bud Goody, Bill Saunders computer reports. Old stuff. It has the Eagles going 15-1. The computer wasn't set up to incorporate the 17th game of the season.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it had the Eagles and the Chiefs playing in the Super Bowl.
There you go.
But what it doesn't predict is how much the Chiefs defense improved the last half of the season.
Yeah, right.
These are 17 game stats rather than the last 5 weeks of the season. The Chiefs defense got a lot better.
I know, Coach.
Better.
Yep. I don't think a lot of Philadelphia fans realize that the Eagles, while the Eagles had 70 sacks and led the league, guess who was number 2? And that was Kansas City. So, I mean, this is not you're right. This is a defense that got markedly better the second half of the season. And it's not going to be a pushover. So now let me get to this now. I know you as a coach, you may not want to do this. You're both organizations. Do you have a prediction? Do you have any confidence one way or the other in how you think it's going to go?
Well, I'll tell you this. My computer predicts the Eagles to win by 4.
All right.
It hasn't been wrong much during the year.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Me, I say this. I'm going to root for both teams to win and then feel real bad for the team that loses.
All right. That's more than fair. That's more than fair,
Coach. Family so well, and I know Andy Reid so well. I don't know Nick as well. I never worked for Jeffrey, but I have great admiration and respect, and I lived there. I went in the Hall of Fame as an Eagle. So I'm going to sit and watch the game and then be happy for the team that wins.
All right. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate it. I appreciate you taking this time on. Everyone, please go to vermeilwines.com. I wonder, do you still have that bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon that you were going to give Morton Anderson when the league told you couldn't do it?
No, I gave it to him.
Oh, did you?
I gave it to him on Thursday rather than Monday.
Good for you.
Chardonnay right now.
There you go. Well, listen, Coach Vermeil, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks again, and best of luck to you and all your future pursuits, okay?
All right. Thank you, buddy. Take care.
All right. Great. Dick Vermeil joining us here on This Week in Pro Football, and you can't get better insight than that from a guy who's been there twice. He won it once, and I particularly appreciated the insight on the 2-week. I thought maybe as a coach, they might think, you know what, 2 weeks is too much. You start tinkering with the game plan. You start getting away, as Coach said, from doing what brought you there. He didn't see it that way. So interesting. All right, listen, we get back. We're going to take a short break here. We get back. Sean Green joins us for the Sports Gambling Podcast. He's on Radio Row somewhere, and we'll talk some props and some picks on the Super Bowl when we get back here on This Week in Pro Football.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
Cantor Novak Beaver and Pike is a full-service CPA firm with offices in PA and New Jersey, offering first-rate accounting, audit, and tax services. They focus on helping clients achieve their business and financial goals, from startup operation to long-term financial planning. For more information, call Terry Cantor or Dan Pike at 215-550-2954 or on the web at cnbpcpas.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football, a Super Bowl edition. Pat Callahan joining you here. It was great to have Coach Vermeil on. Some great insight from him. And I'm glad. I'm a Hall of Famer. Good for him. A couple of Super Bowls and a terrific record, 126 wins with Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Kansas City. Here's a winner right now. How about it? Get this guy on here. Probably owns half a Radio Row by now, and that would be the great Sean Green of the Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening, Pat? Yeah, calling live from Phoenix.
Yes.
A lot of Eagles fans roaming around. Wasn't going to miss this one. Talk about the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
What do they do? They already kick you out? I mean, you're living out of the trunk now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's no good signal down in Radio Row, ironically. All the big shows sucking up the Wi-Fi. So had to come outside, make sure I get you a good spot.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that, going that extra mile. I was just going to start off. I was going to make if you hadn't logged on, but I appreciate that you did. I'm a little surprised. Maybe I'm not, because I can't stand them. The 49ers, the amount of whining that I'm seeing online from the 49ers. Maybe if you don't let the Eagles crash into your quarterback all day long, maybe you get to play with one of them the whole game, huh?
Yeah, I've renamed them the San Francisco 40-winers because it's just been that all day. They just keep complaining.
I know.
I mean, you got Robbie Gould. They're talking about, adjusting the rules. And let's be real. You can dress three quarterbacks, Christian McCaffrey. Your coach decided not to. Right. And let's be real. Is there some quarterback that was worse than Josh Johnson that was going to come in there and win that game? You want Brock Purdy to play, and you blocked for him.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah, but doing that.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
See, I'm going to make a Ram fan out of you yet because now we've eliminated the Niners. All right.
Oh yeah, they're never on the list.
Good. All right. This is tell me about it. First off, are the Eagles the dominant fan base out in Arizona, or how does it go percentage wise?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I always rock my Eagles gear regardless, but yeah, definitely Eagles heavy. I haven't seen a ton of Chiefs, maybe a handful here or there, but. A lot of Eagles fans. I was just talking to a couple. Fans feel confident, and but I would say dominant, probably like 60-40, something like that.
Well, I guess you got to give the Chiefs some slack. Chiefs fans, it's our third Super Bowl in 4 years. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, good problem to have, right?
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. All right, so let's talk about some numbers here, Sean. The line has stuck at 1.5 for most of. Say 3 days at least. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a proper number, or do you see it maybe going one way or the other before Sunday?
Yeah, I kind of predicted earlier on that I thought the Chiefs might close like a 1-point favorite or maybe a pick. We'll see, though. I mean, the public still seems to be on the Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some of the injury news for the Chiefs. Hey, Juju's definitely playing. Snead, he cleared concussion protocol. He's good to go. So I think some of those might swing it a little closer to pick, but I'm seeing it just hanging at 1.5. So, earlier on, I thought it might close as a pick or maybe even Kansas City a slight favorite, when the real public gets in on the betting action late. But yeah, right now it's holding steady at 1.5.
Yeah, it's fun. It'll be interesting to see because I imagine, Sean, there's going to be an avalanche of money still yet to come in. And how that goes between the two teams. But I mean, Eagle fans are quite loyal, so I imagine there'll be a lot of dollars bet on Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would think. All right, so how about some props? I was looking on Ocean Resorts website here, their sponsor here at JAKIB Sports, and I see some. Let me just hit you with these three. I'm sure you have similar numbers. Boston Scott over under 8.5 rush yards. That seems impossible to pass up, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's so low because in close games he traditionally doesn't get much work. But man, I mean, Boston Scott runs hard, and especially on long drives where Gainwell and Sanders get a bunch of carries, they put Scott in. So it doesn't take much for him to get 8 yards. Yeah, I'd say 9 yards, carries. Whatever it is. 2
carries, maybe, Sean. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith over under, at least on this one, 63.5. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm not one to give out many unders. I do kind of like A.J. Brown more than Devonta Smith. I feel like that number's probably right. I kind of think A.J. Brown might have the bigger game yardage-wise, and Devonta Smith, it might be a little safer to play his catches over. I don't feel as good about his over yards.
All right. And then the other one that I noted, Sean, I wanted to get your opinion on Jalen Hurts, 241.5 on pass yards. I think that could be another under. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles just love running the ball. I mean,
right.
lead the league in rushing touchdowns, 39 rushing touchdowns. I mean, if you're looking to bet on Jalen Hurts, bet Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. I feel like a broken record. Every time I come on the show, you ask me for an Eagles prop, and it's always a Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. He's gotten seven games. He's had a rushing touchdown. He's had 9 in his last 9 games. It's just kind of an auto play. Even if you think the Chiefs are going to win, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown, I think it's a good bet.
You're right. And the other one would be a Travis Kelce. I mean, it must be minus 18,000, a Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. I mean, to me, and that's fascinating. And I want to ask Sal. I'm going to ask Sal this question: is to me to beat Kansas City, you gotta stop 2 guys, Chris Jones. You got to contain him, and then you've got to cover 87. I've never seen anything like it. This guy gets so wide open. He's not only just a little open; he gets wide open, and he's really far and away Kansas City's best receiver.
Well, and hopefully they put James Bradberry on, because James Bradberry has had some experience covering Travis Kelce. When Bradberry was on the Giants, he held Kelce to 4 catches, 27 yards. I don't think he's going to have that kind of performance, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put Bradberry on Kelce, maybe even double him up with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson there. And then, Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay can kind of handle the other Chiefs receivers, because I'm with you. Like, clearly, if you're going to lose the game, it's going to be, Mahomes to Kelce. That's a bread and butter.
That's right. So, I mean, if you're going to lose the game, I'd rather lose to one of their receivers as a
make Juju or
Sky Moore or Juju beat you.
Kadarius Toney.
Right. Yeah. Don't let Travis Kelce. I mean, the number of times this guy catches touchdown passes standing up. I know it's amazing. So I assume the Eagles are game planning for that. But back to Jalen Hurts, Sean. Postseason, he only has 275 pass yards in the 2 games combined, 31 of 49. So you said it when we started off. They don't really throw the ball a hell of a lot. He only had 22 touchdown passes the whole season anyway. So, I mean, clearly the prevailing wisdom is the Eagles, if they run well, they're going to win this game. Do you see it any different?
No, because again, and the Chiefs are coming in, they're averaging 6 yards carried allowed on the defensive side, which is the most out of any team to ever make it to the Super Bowl. Other great nugget, the Eagles have 7 rushing touchdowns. That's the same if you took all 13 other playoff teams, combine them, they have 7 rushing touchdowns. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So right. I'd be – maybe there's a game script where he gets there yardage-wise if A.J. Brown catches a deep ball or something like that. But I'm definitely leaning into the idea that they're going to be pounding the rock because it's worked for them, and the Chiefs aren't great at stopping it.
It certainly has. Now, the last question I have for you, it's Carl Cheffers' time. Do you does any of your voluminous research indicate whether that favors one team or another?
Well, I'll let Travis Kelce answer that. And Travis Kelce got fined because he said Carl Cheffers shouldn't be a referee. He should be working at Foot Locker. The last time Cheffers refereed a big Kelce game. So I think, unfortunately, for Chiefs fans, it might be personal. The numbers certainly favor a decent number of penalties. Cheffers, I think, shades toward the under. I'll have to double-check the ref report. But I definitely know he's no fan of Travis Kelce.
How about that? Clever reference by Travis there with the shirt and everything.
I don't know if there's still – are there still Foot Lockers? I don't know. I feel like everyone orders shoes online these days.
Commissioner Goodell came out and said that the officiating has never been better. You and I have spoken about this topic frequently through the season, and I'm not sure that's accurate. But I give him some credit, I guess, for backing his guys up. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say? Like, hey, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, it's kind of, there's never going to be robo-umps in the NFL. I think, the automatic reviews that they were doing for some part of the playoffs, I think just keep leading into those. You have instant replay and booth replay, like use it. And again, like the reffing is a hard job. I mean, I love busting their chops when they do a bad job, but give them all the tools they can because it's not easy.
Yeah. All right, Radio Row. I mean, is it the lunacy that it looks like, Sean? I mean, have you done this before? You've done this numerous times now, or is this your first time?
So this is the second time. I did it in L.A. Last year, doing it again here. Yeah, it's just, a giant convention center, tons of people walking around, and it's all fun.
And you're trying to buttonhole people for your podcast, I guess, right?
Yeah, you're trying to snag people for interviews. We're actually doing a live show here in like an hour with some of the other NFL guys with our partner sponsor. We got Chris Long, Nick Mangold, Chad Ochocinco, Julian Edelman. So that should be pretty fun.
How do people access that? They want to watch it.
Yeah, just check it out. YouTube.com/Sports Gambling Podcast, or check out the podcast. The audio will be there as soon as we get it up.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing that. And thanks a lot for taking this time. It'll be very, very interesting to see how this pans out and how these props panned out. But listen, we probably got one more to do, so I might grab you for next week if we can, just to sum the whole thing up. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully the Eagles win, and it's a celebration podcast.
Yes.
Final score, 31-21 Eagles. That's what I'm going with.
31-21. Okay, well done. Thank you very much, Sean. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take it easy.
All right, the great Sean Green there from the Sports Gambling Podcast checking in. Doesn't surprise anybody that Sean likes Philadelphia minus the points. He likes Philadelphia on the money line. Sean Green is a big Eagles fan, so I mean that's. But 1.5. It just seems like you want to take the Eagles with that kind of number. I would think. Just a field goal. I think the Eagles field goal kicker, now that you mentioned, I think Jake Elliott's had a better year than has Kansas City's kicker. So, I mean, I know that. So it's something, if it comes down to that, I think Butker is more prone to missing one, and especially extra points. He has a tendency to miss some extra points too. So if it comes down to that, and it certainly might, the kicker might be the difference there. It could be a 3-point game, certainly. One way or the other. All right. Waiting on Sal Pao to join us. Sal is also out in Phoenix. Just a couple news and notes here, some Super Bowl news and notes while we wait for Sal to join us. The tail of the tape, I mentioned offensively, we're talking to Coach Vermeil. Kansas City ranks first in offensive yards, Philadelphia fourth. We mentioned the Eagles fifth in rushing, Kansas City 20. Kansas City does not run the ball. They don't. Coach Reed has never been, if you think about it, all time here in Philadelphia, he just dabbles in the run game, and he wants the ball in the hands of number 15. Now, who wouldn't? But Kansas City still passing, number one, 5,062 yards, the only team to throw for 5,000 yards this year. The Eagles ninth in passing, but as Sean was talking about, that's not a meaningful statistic, I think, to Philadelphia. Defensively, the Eagles second in the league defense, and Kansas City is 11th. As Coach Vermeil mentioned, the Chiefs are getting better, though. That 11 slot really is more the factor of the fact Kansas City was not playing well in the first half of the year. Defensively, they heated up in the second half of the season. They're eighth against the run. So the Eagles' fifth-ranked rush game against Kansas City's eighth-ranked rush defense. But I think that's a little misnomer on the part of Kansas City there. Kansas City's eighth against the run because teams don't run against them, because they're usually losing because of Mahomes. So teams aren't running against Kansas City. They're throwing against Kansas City. Kansas City 13th against the pass. Philadelphia first. This is where the rubber's going to meet the road here. You got the Chiefs' first-ranked passing game against the Eagles' top-ranked defense against the pass. So this is where it's going to be. I'm going to ask Sal Pao when he joins us about this frequent refrain you're hearing on social media that the Eagles haven't played anybody. I don't buy that, but there could be a culture shock there that I'm sure the Eagle coaches are warning the players about. Is it ain't Daniel Jones, it's not Brock Purdy, it's not Josh Johnson, it's not Sam Howell. That's currently the best quarterback in the NFL, and no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, but Patrick Mahomes right now is the best quarterback in the NFL. So the Eagles are going to have to be on their A game, certainly. Turnovers-wise, the Eagles +8 on the season, Kansas City -3. The Eagles have a pretty good advantage there, almost won a game advantage. So Mahomes has thrown 12 picks. The Eagles have only thrown 9. So the Eagles have, statistically, they've got the advantage over Kansas City. They just need to neutralize to as much an extent as they can. They got to neutralize 87. They got to neutralize 95. At least keep them from being overwhelming factors in the game. If If they do that, I think Philadelphia has the superior talent to win the game. Certainly. Some Super Bowl notes here. I should throw out a trivia question. If anybody wants to answer it, I'll on my Twitter feed at TWIPFPat, I'll send you a This Week in Pro Football shirt. 5 guys with 3 touchdowns in one Super Bowl. 5 guys have scored 3 touchdowns in one Super Bowl. 3 of them are 49ers. Can anybody name me the 3 49ers? Can't stand that team, but they were all over the Super Bowl, obviously. Can somebody name me the 3 49ers who have scored 3 touchdowns in one Super Bowl? The other 2, Terrell Davis and, of course, James White of the New England Patriots had 3 touchdowns in that memorable comeback win against Atlanta. Most pass attempts in a game. I don't think this record's going to get broken. 62 pass attempts by Tom Brady in that same game where New England came back and beat Atlanta. Highest completion percentage in the game, 88%. Phil Simms, 22 of 25 against the hapless Denver Broncos. Game Giants won 39-20. That record could fall. I don't know if it's going to. I don't think it's going to fall this week because the Eagles' pass defense is too good. So I think, but that'll be close. I mean, I think sacks in one game. 4 guys have done it 3 times, and 2 number 1 seeds in the Super Bowl. The last time it was done was Philadelphia against New England. That was 5 years ago. However, it's not uncommon. 5 times in the last 10 years, the 2 number 1 seeds have met in a Super Bowl. How about we get this guy on right now, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, and hailing from senior correspondent for ESPN. That would be the great Sal Paolantonio joining me from Phoenix. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sal. We can hear you.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, we just got through with Jalen Hurts' press conference.
All right. Well, I knew you weren't. I knew you weren't going to let Jalen Hurts preempt me. I mean, I know the kind of guy you are.
We are here in the Eagles Hotel. I'll show you. There's a press conference podium right behind me. I think you can see it.
Yep, we can see it. Yeah.
All right, fire away, Pat.
All right.
We're day 5 here at the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles, and you got me live on your show. So let's go, baby. What do you got?
Let me start with this here. I'm always curious, and I did speak about this with Coach Vermeil. But my question to you is, how do you assess the demeanor? You've done God knows how many Super Bowls. Is there a difference in demeanor between the coaches and players on each team, or is everybody of the same? You get the same vibe from both teams.
Pat, it would be 3-0 Super Bowls, 30.
Wow.
I would say of all the quarterbacks that have been up here talking to us, Jalen Hurts is just about the most poised that I have ever seen. He is really tremendous. Yeah. And, on the practice field, what I'm hearing is he's really taking charge. And then talking to Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, yesterday, one-on-one, Pat, it was pretty evident to me that they are just truly impressed with how dialed in this guy is. Steichen was telling me that as he was getting off the plane here in Arizona, he was getting texts from Jalen. What happens when this play comes up and this defense from the Chiefs? How do I get out of this bad play and into this good situation? What's my check here? What's my call here? Yeah. And that kind of exchange is going on all the time between Shane Steichen and Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts. And an interesting part of it was in the end of my conversation with Shane Steichen, I asked him very specifically whether or not Jalen Hurts would give Steichen any restriction in terms of what he could call.
Right.
And he looked me in the eye, Pat, and he said, "No, we're in this game to win it. We're going to let it all hang out." All right. And I got the same impression from Jalen Hurts today. It's interesting. Brian Johnson, his mindset is actually last week with they at the NovaCare facility. He and Jalen sat down, Pat, and they talked about how this is your new job title. Like he's had a number of job titles this offseason. Right. Quarterback rehabbing, quarterback in training camp, quarterback going out to California and fixing his game, quarterback of a team that has been on a record-setting pace. Now he's the quarterback of the Super Bowl NFC champs,
champion, right?
And Super Bowl Philadelphia Eagles. So he said he's able to compartmentalize and on and off the field, and it's truly remarkable for a guy who's 24 years old.
That is. That really is. Now, speaking about the head coach, you mentioned Sean Steichen and how calm his demeanor is. You feel the same way about the Eagles head coach. And I only mention it because this is Coach Reed's fourth Super Bowl and third Super Bowl in 4 years. He has been there. This is Nick Sirianni's first. Now, I'm surprised, Sal. First-time head coaches in a Super Bowl are 28-31. They're almost 500. Do you sense anything from Nick Sirianni? Is the moment getting close to overpowering him?
I got a sense early in the week where he kept repeating the mantra, we're going to stick to our process, stick to our process, stick to our process. That was a guy who was trying to deflect whatever pressure he was feeling and move it towards, put it in a bucket, a routine bucket, right? And you've seen that. We all see that kind of thing.
Right.
Today in his press conference, this is Thursday. It's his last availability. I thought he was pretty smooth, and I thought he was relaxed. I really did. Apparently, they had a very good practice. We'll get the practice report here shortly, but apparently they had a very good practice at the Cardinals facility today. Yesterday was a very energetic walkthrough, I was told. Interestingly, Sirianni made a little news here today. He said that initially on Saturday night, he was going to speak to the team, but he scrapped that plan and said instead he's going to have an open mic night in which players can talk to the team. Anybody who wants to talk to the team. I hope that the NFL Films cameras are in there for that one, Pat.
That's right. That's a clever move by him. I think that's a clever move by him there.
Yeah, he said he learned it at Mount Union when he was with the Purple Raiders. When they went to the Stag Bowl the night before his coach opened it up to the players. I thought that was brilliant.
No. Talking with Sal Paolantonio here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show. I don't know when you're going to squeeze that in. I guess getting ready. That should be a great show coming up this weekend, I guess.
We are taping on Saturday, and we will be we will be live on taping on Sunday morning. Then we'll be on the show will be on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on ESPN2.
Excellent. Sal, I've been espousing the last few minutes before you came on that to me, and I asked this of the coach Vermeil too, and he just said the Eagles have to stick to what brought them, which is running the ball. But I think there's two guys on the Chiefs. The Eagles need to just not eliminate or completely negate, just contain. And that is because you're not going to contain Mahomes. It's 87 and 95. How do you think the Eagles try and do anything different to at least neutralize those two guys?
Well, Pat, let's take 87 first, because that's the hard one. Right. So there's only one player with more postseason receptions and postseason receiving yards. That is Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is 1. Travis Kelce is 2.
How about that?
Okay. Yeah. And when Kelce was asked why he's always open, his answer was 2 words, Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, yeah.
Well, that suggests to me that Reid is doing a whole lot of diabolical planning and design to get Kelce open. I don't agree with that. I watch it on film. I think it's more nuanced than that, where Kelce finds seams and holes instinctively with just his vision and feel, and he works so well together with Holmes. So if I have that opinion, my answer is simple. I don't know how you defend against that, because that's intuitive at the core, and I don't know how you defend against it. As for Jones, he's pure power and speed. He's power and speed. And in my opinion, it depends on where he lines up. If he's going to be on the right side, it's going to be Lane Johnson's responsibility to really seal this guy off and make sure they know where he is. Right. The great thing about this offensive line is that Jason Kelce makes the protection calls.
Right.
So they're going to be looking for 95.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking for him, and whatever they got to do to block him. You don't want him to wreck the game like he did against the Bengals.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I'm making. I think Philadelphia has a superior talent, Sal, and I think if they just don't allow somebody to take the game over on either side of the ball, I think that's a big advantage for Philadelphia because number 15, you're not going to contain him. You're not going to contain him, right? I mean, he's just going to do what he's going to do, and I think the Eagles just need to neutralize everybody else.
Well, that's partially true, Pat. By the way, have you ever had the head coach podium in your This Week in Pro Football before on the Super Bowl? Pat,
Pat, I wish you could stand behind it. You want to stand behind it, Sal.
Pat, what I bring to your show is invaluable, Pat. I got the head coach's podium right here on JAKIB Media on This Week in Pro Football. You don't get any better than that.
No, you sure don't. You sure don't.
Todd Bowles, when they played in the COVID Bowl in Tampa, Todd Bowles did a great job against Patrick Mahomes, and he did it by rushing 4 or 5, blitzing very rarely, and playing cover and forcing Patrick Mahomes to hold on to the ball. Now, they covered Kelsey in that game.
Right. And I think, too, if the Eagles, the defensive ends, if they don't let him get out of the pocket. He's not going to run for a lot of yards, but, boy, can he improvise and make all of a sudden a 30-yard pass play out of nothing. That's what I think Philadelphia needs to avoid when it comes to him. Sal, a frequent media refrain I'm seeing online, at least, is that the Eagles really haven't played anybody. And, of course, if you look and what I think they're alluding to is, say, for instance, the Eagles finished up the regular season and so far in the playoffs with Andy Dalton, Daniel Jones, and Brock Purdy. Now, all of a sudden, they get the best quarterback in the league, I think, right now. Is there anything notable about this sentiment that the Eagles, quote, haven't played anybody, or is that just 49er type whining?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter than the former, Pat. This is a complete team. You can only beat who's on the schedule. We've talked about that. I think the mindset here in Arizona that I have felt the last 3 days with this team is simple. We are who we are. If people don't like us, we don't care. We know what we can do. We are a run-first team that can run the ball. Patrick Mahomes' 3 playoff losses have all come when he lost the time of possession battle. You must play keep away from Patrick Mahomes. That was a question that I asked Nick Sirianni, about 25 minutes ago, more like a half an hour ago. Right. So I will run that tonight on SportsCenter, and I'll tell you, Pat, he talked about the fine line, the balancing act. You play keep away from Patrick Mahomes, but you need to score points. Right. And the way you do that is be good on third down. Because if you're not good on third down, what happens? You got to punt, then you give the ball back to 15. No good. You got to be good on third down, and you got to score points if you play keep away.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's a formula. No doubt about it. I love your comment, the stat you gave me about time of possession. I think that's how the Eagles win the game. I really do. They're number 5 rush team. Number 5 rush against Kansas City's number 20 rush defense. The passing game, I hope, gets neutralized. Kansas City's number 1 offense. Eagles are number 1 defense. I hope they can at least contain it that way. All right, listen, this is your 30th Super Bowl. Come on, you got to have some memorable memories about that. Probably most notably, Sal, I would say, is probably 5 years ago. But how do you rank it? I mean, is there any other Super Bowl besides the Eagles winning in Minnesota that stands out in your career as being a memorable
Well, let's be clear about something, Pat. The Eagles winning Super Bowl 52 is definitely the most memorable Super Bowl because I covered the team for 25 straight years. Everybody who lives around me, my family and friends, they're all Eagles fans. And the level of angst and pain that has built up over the years was big. And for Doug Peters, and the way the Eagles won the game was also spectacular and dramatic. Right. It'll never be duplicated. Right. So that's number 1. I think, others that I was personally involved in, the 9/11 Super Bowl, when the Patriots beat the Rams, that was very emotional for a lot of people who grew up in the New York metropolitan region, especially. I had a lot of friends who perished in the South Tower. So that was a very memorable Super Bowl for me personally. Right. And then there were some others. My first Super Bowl with my brother, I went with my brother back in Atlanta when the Bills played Dallas. That was kind of cool to just share that first Super Bowl with my little brother. Right. That was really exciting. Yeah. Jacksonville was exciting, even though the Eagles lost. Yeah. Because that was the first Super Bowl that I covered with the Eagles. Yeah. So this is my 3rd one with the Eagles. They're favored. Yeah. They're healthy, knock on wood. Right. Their quarterback is on par to do something really great. They got a good coach. They got a great pass rush. They got a great offensive line. Pat, the Eagles should win this game, Pat. The Eagles should win this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one, but that's the way I feel. I feel the same way, Sal. I appreciate you taking all this time. I know you probably got another 10 hours worth of work to do tonight. So thanks a lot for carving out this time to do this. And if I could drag you in front of this camera one more time, I'd like to wrap it all up next week. All right?
Pat, it's my pleasure. And I'm glad that I could bring you a little of the atmosphere. It's a little rough and a little rough around the edges. I apologize about that, but I think it kind of brings the energy of what's going on.
The improvisation was great.
In the next room, Pat, about 500 members of the media are interviewing all the Eagles. Today is the last availability. So, tonight we'll do some stand-ups, and Friday we'll do more reporting here from the hotel. Saturday we will tape the matchup show, and then Sunday's your basic Super Bowl Sunday for me. It's an 18-hour day. Starts with stand-ups on SportsCenter, 2-hour difference. So it's a long, beautiful day, culmination of the year. So we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks again. Appreciate you carving out the time, Sal. Stay well and have a safe trip back. All right.
All right.
All right. Sal Paolantonio joining me from Phoenix. Come on, man. We've loaded this up for you. And some great insight there from Sal, too, especially that comment about that's a great way to beat Patty Mahomes, boy, is don't give him the ball. When he loses time of possession, he loses. How about that? So we'll see. I'm sure Philadelphia will keep that in mind as they carve out their game plan. All right, listen, we're going to take a break here. And when I get back, I'm going to be joined by my old friend Gary Myers. He'll have his thoughts on the Super Bowl, on Roger Goodell talking about how great the officials are doing. And we'll get Gary's take on this game as it steamrolls towards us here on Sunday. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
For the team at Cordasco Financial Network, a part of Mercer Advisors, financial planning is about more than just managing your money. They guide you in making retirement, tax, insurance, and estate planning decisions by creating a plan based entirely on your individual needs. Plus, Cordasco Financial Network professionals work one-on-one with business owners in creating and managing company 401k plans, IRAs, and defined benefit plans. They can help you maximize plan efficiency, ensure full regulatory compliance, and optimize tax obligations. Call 855-558-3500 or click the link in the description below to learn more. Let their team help you secure your future. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network is a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Andrew Garrett Incorporated, which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences vary. Successful outcomes not guaranteed.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth we can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
All right, we're back here this week in Pro Football, a Super Bowl edition. I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. Dick Vermeil joining us, Sean Green, of course, Sal Paolantonio, live from right in front of the podium out there in Phoenix. Here's a guy who's been in front of thousands of podiums in his storied journalistic career. That would be the longtime Dallas Morning News, New York Daily News, and the author of Coaching Confidential, Brady versus Manning, and forthcoming Once a Giant. That's Gary Myers. How you doing, Gary?
What's going on tonight, Pat?
Not much, Gary. Down here in the Philadelphia area, there's a game coming up Sunday. There's some mild interest in here as the Eagles get ready to play the Chiefs. And what I wanted to get were some insights from you, a guy who has seen, I guess, Gary, you've covered numerous Super Bowls in your career, right?
Well, I actually covered 37 in a row, starting with Joe Namath. God, I'm not that old. Joe Montana's first Super Bowl. So starting with Super Bowl 16, I covered 37 in a row.
All right.
I saw some amazing games and some real clunkers in there.
I know, but it's true. That's true. You probably went through that period when there was some really Dallas was braining Buffalo and Washington was, and Denver was getting killed by the 49ers.
Yeah.
You're right. But when did you realize, Gary, over the course of that 37 years, I just had Sal Paolo and you got him beat. He's only 30. When did you realize during that time, was there a particular Super Bowl when you said to yourself, boy, the NFL has just reached the pinnacle here and is the king of U.S. sports?
I think it was Super Bowl 20, which was the Patriots and the Bears. And the reason I say that is that game was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And to experience a game in New Orleans and the party atmosphere on Bourbon Street leading up to that game, it was really a very unique experience for me. Now, that was my, I don't know, what was that, the fourth or fifth Super Bowl I had covered, but it was the first one there, and then the Bears was such they were such a team filled with personality, that they had this mystique about them. They did that Super Bowl video before they even played in the game, and there was just something about that Bears team that attracted people and kind of turned them into larger than life characters, especially, Jim McMahon hanging out on Bourbon Street till all hours of the night. Mike Ditka not having a curfew and the players breaking it. That was a joke there, that's when it really hit me that it was just an incredible, unique American experience.
Yeah. And it has just grown exponentially, even ever since that, to the point now where it's just an event, is what the Super Bowl is. Let's get some. Let me get your coaching hat on, though. Talking about this particular game, which I think is a fine matchup.
It's great.
Very closely matched teams, and so let's break it down here. When Philadelphia has the ball, so Eagle offense versus Kansas City defense, who do you think has the edge there?
Well, first of all, I just want to say it's fun because it's 2-1s, the two top seeds, made it through, which means we have the two best teams.
Yeah, it hasn't happened since
all the time.
Last there, right?
Yeah, when Philly has the ball, I think they're such a well-rounded offense. They can run it, and obviously with those two receivers in the year that Jalen Hurts has had, they can throw it. And their offensive line is one of the best I've seen, in a very long time. Kansas City has that young secondary. They play a bunch of rookies.
Yeah.
Spags is, people in Philadelphia are familiar with him.
Right.
His years with the Eagles. But I think that the Philly offense is so diversified that it makes them very, very difficult to stop. It's almost like a pick your poison offense, the way they've played this year.
Right.
Is it the best offense I've seen in a Super Bowl? I'm not even close, really. But the way they're playing this year, and again, I think they have the edge. I know that's the bottom line to this question. Is I think they have the edge over the Kansas City defense in that matchup.
Yeah, and I'll give you a great corollary, Gary. The Eagles' offensive line, I'd have to look at it. How many man games they have missed this year? But I bet you it is a very small number. When your offensive line stays together all season, a perfect example was the Rams last season. They hardly lost any man games on the offensive line. They win a Super Bowl. This year, collapsed. The offensive line collapsed on them. You have an offensive line that stays together and is cohesive. That is hard to beat.
Yeah, and when you have an All-Pro Lane Johnson who was kind of banged up at the end of the year and fought his way through it to get back on the field in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What does he have? It's
like almost like an abdominal.
Like a sports hernia kind of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a torn abdominal. Abductor, I think they call it. I don't know, but
it shows what a guy he is.
I think he many other players would have opted for surgery by this time, I guess.
Yeah. Now the strength of the Kansas City defense obviously is Chris Jones.
Right.
But I think that the Eagles will find a way to do a much better job on him than Cincinnati did, where the weakness of Cincinnati was their offensive line, and probably the strength of the Eagles' offense is their offensive line. But then they have great weapons as well.
All right, Gary, the marquee matchup probably is when the number one ranked pass offense of the Chiefs has the ball against the number one ranked pass defense of Philadelphia. Who's got the edge here?
Well, here, I can't help get out of my mind what happened in that Super Bowl 2 years ago. Now, I know that Kansas City's their starting tackles were out, so their offensive line was just a mess, and Tampa just ran over them. Right. The Eagles' defensive line is much better than Tampa's was a couple of years ago. Now, Kansas City's offensive line is better, but to have four guys that had double-digit sacks, and now a quarterback with Mahomes, who we don't know the extent of how much he's hurting.
Yeah.
They told us before the Bengals game a couple of weeks ago that, he was fine. And then by the first series of the game, when he started getting chased around a little bit, you can tell that, he wasn't even close to 100%. And by the end of the game,
he was noticeably laboring, right?
Yeah, it's always silly when they say, "Oh, he played on one leg." Yeah. No, he didn't play on one leg. He played on two legs. One of them was injured.
Right. Right.
But I think that the Eagles' ability to get after Mahomes will be the key to this game. You got to make him a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
He wants to sit in the pocket as much as he can, so he doesn't put pressure on that ankle. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the Eagles will really get after him, and then their secondary is excellent. Yeah. But his best corner tandem in the league in Slay and Bradbury.
Coach Reed is honestly, he might have something up his sleeves there. Perhaps Kansas City emphasizes the run when the game starts. But I wanted to ask you about Coach Reed. In your book, Coaching Confidential, you have a number of pages on Coach Reed, who's now been coaching for 24 years in this league and won 266 games versus 155 losses. Very impressive resume on this guy. I asked Coach Vermeil this, and I would ask you the same. What is it about him? What is it about Reed that drives him with all the personal problems he's had that you outlined in the book? How's he able to compartmentalize that and can keep going? That's a long tenure for an NFL head coach.
Yeah, those sons of his, one of them, unfortunately, who passed away,
right,
have caused him such heartache over the years. All during the tenure of being a head coach, first in Philly and now in Kansas City. I don't know how he does it, honestly. When I interviewed him, it was during a period of time that he was having problems with both of them. And I think that maybe right around the time my book was going to come out and I had a chance to make the last edit on it, I think is when I forget their names, which was which.
But I think Britt was one, and I can't remember the name of the other one. You're talking about the Suns, right?
Yeah. That's when one of them had passed away. I don't know how he concentrated on football with all this turmoil going on in his life. The thing about Andy that, some people might have thought it was admirable, others can feel exactly different, is his dedication to the job led him to sleep in his office so often. And you wonder, how much that led to, and I'm not passing judgment on anybody's life, but his decision to stay in his office several nights a week rather than going home, how did that contribute to the turmoil that was going on in his house? I don't have the answer to that.
Right.
He probably doesn't have the answer to that,
Right.
but at least it makes you wonder. As far as, his determination and his commitment to his job and being able to do it all these years, I mean, he's been very successful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's driven him to continue. And now, I mean, if I was coaching Patrick Mahomes, I'd do it until
that's right. Right. I mean, it is our third Super Bowl in 4 years, Kansas City, and they've won 7 straight AFC West championships, and have just been a dominant team in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, they play the AFC Championship game at home every year.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Right. So, all right, give me now. All right, here we are. It's time of the denouement here, Gary. I mean, you've seen these two teams. They've been on TV frequently. Probably know both teams reasonably well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see it going?
I don't know how many people agree with me on this one, but I think the Eagles are going to have a relatively easy time in this game. I really do. They've played the best in the NFL from start to finish, or at least up to this point. We're not at the finish line yet.
Right.
I see a lot of holes that they can exploit on the Chiefs, both offensively and defensively. And I know Andy Reid is a great coach, and he's going to have something pretty cool up his sleeve to try to trick the Eagles. But that only carries you so far. When you're overmatched or have a disadvantage in personnel, it's very hard to overcome just by scheming things up. Just like it was for him a couple of years ago against the Bucs, because he was shorthanded on the offensive line. I really, maybe they get off to a quick start, Kansas City I'm talking about, but I just think that I think the Eagles' offensive line will wear down Kansas City's defensive line. The Eagles run it well enough. Miles Sanders leading that group, and they have a good group back there. Yeah. I think the Eagles win by 10. I really do.
All right. That is a minority viewpoint now. Most, including even me, are predicting, because Mahomes is just he's such an outstanding talent. Mm-hmm. This is to me it's the first game all season, Gary, where I think the Eagles are facing a team where the Eagles don't have an advantage at quarterback. And as I mentioned to Sal, the Eagles' last 3 games, Andy Dalton, Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy. Now all of a sudden, you got 15. I think there'll be a little bit of a culture shock there, but I think Philadelphia's going to win. But I don't know if it's going to be 10. But that'll be very pressing if that's the way it turns out. You'll be one of the few saying it.
The Eagles have probably had the easiest path to a Super Bowl of any conference winner that I can remember in a really long time. The Giants just weren't competitive. They were totally outclassed. And then the 49ers, who I thought would give them a game, if not beat them, lose their quarterback on the 7th play of the game and basically played the 3.5 quarters without a quarterback. Right. It's really hard to win a championship game without a quarterback. And
good
Josh Johnson had no business being in the league, and then they put Purdy back in.
That is correct, Gary. Meanwhile, he's been with about 18 teams. He's hanging out.
Literally. He's with the 49ers 4 times. I want to say this. I know people praise Kyle Shanahan with his offensive schemes and what a really bright guy he is, and he is, and he's an excellent head coach. But think about some of the things that have happened in his career. He was the architect of that Falcons offense that couldn't kill off the clock.
Right.
And the Brady comeback in the Super Bowl against Atlanta. They blew a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter against the Rams in the championship game last year. Right. And then, Pat, it's coaching malpractice to go into the playoffs with Josh Johnson as your backup quarterback.
I agree.
You've already lost your first and second stringers, so you can't be shocked if you lose your third stringer, and to think you're going to trust the season to Josh Johnson. And I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, they could have signed Cam Newton or this guy or that guy. But to Josh Johnson, really?
Yeah. I agree with you, Gary, wholeheartedly. I do too. I think the same thing. I think the 49ers complaining now about how the game would have been different. Hey, you're the team that let the Eagles crash into the two quarterbacks you had in the game. Nobody else did it.
And you also had a backup tight end trying to block Hassan Riddick on the play that Purdy got hurt.
Purdy got hurt, right? Yeah, exactly.
So, well, let's not. You know what? Let's just hold off. Maybe we should put Mike Shanahan in the Hall of Fame because he won a couple of Super Bowls. Let's hold off on this kid for a little bit.
Excellent. All right, listen, Gary. I want next week. I'm thinking maybe we'll do a little post-mortem here. I want to get comments from you next week about Roger Goodell and his assessment of the officials. You and I have been talking about the officials all season. I want to get a take from you on what is the league going to do, if anything. Maybe they don't do anything. But I'll get a take from you on that and a review of what happens Sunday. We'll see if you're right about the Eagles having an easier time of it. I appreciate you taking the time tonight. All right, and look forward to talking to you next week.
That sounds great, Pat. Thanks a lot.
All right, great. Gary Myers joining me there. Long time. How about that? 37 Super Bowls. Gary Myers has covered. We have a lot of guys with a lot of mileage on the show tonight. I want to thank them all. Dick Vermeil, Sal Paolantonio, Sean Green, not so much mileage. Gary Myers, plenty. Great to have them all on. I think Philadelphia wins the game. A lot of people picking a higher scoring game. The over-under is 50. I think it could easily get there. I think Philadelphia maybe 28-24, maybe 30-24 Philadelphia. I think the Eagles should win this game. I'll be very disappointed if they don't. But they just cover 87 and block 95. There you have it. That's my prescription. So thanks a lot for joining me tonight. And look forward to talking to you one more time here as we wrap up this week in pro football. And let's have a good Super Bowl. All right? Thanks.